Hey, what's up guys, Chris here, back in No Man's Sky Beyond, and today we're going to go over a favorite topic of mine, something that a lot of players engage with, and this has been done since the beginning of the game. Of course, you probably realize by now that I'm talking about finding lush planets, probably one of the most sought after planets in No Man's Sky, and for good reason. They are the most aesthetically pleasing, they are by far the best to be in, and who doesn't want some Earth-like conditions? The trick over here is that, well, perfect lush planets are kinda hard to find, so I'm not going to try to beat it around the bush. You are going to require a little bit of patience, it is going to be required from you to do a bit of work, but once you do find your perfect lush world, it's definitely going to be worth it. So here's a few tips and tricks that you should keep in mind before proceeding. First of all, you will need an upgraded hyperdrive, but you don't need anything other than the upgrade modules, so no cadmium, indium hyperdrive or anything else, just the upgrade module so that you have a bigger range as well as a better performance in terms of using the warp cells. The reason for that is quite simple, and that is because by far the best chances to find lush biomes is in yellow systems. No other system in the game, be it red, green or blue, can spawn lush biomes with such a high regularity. Even according to No Man's Sky's own wiki page, on a scale from 1 to 4, with 1 being a low chance and 4 being a very high chance, yellow systems are the only ones that have a 4 very high chance for lush worlds to spawn. In fact, the biggest of any type of planet and any type of system in the game. And even if it does spawn like this, there's other variables in there that you have to fight against as well, including frenzied sentinels, which are much more common in green, blue and red systems, as well as anomalous planets. And yes, lush biomes can also spawn as anomalous, but they are really undesirable. So now that you know the basics of the theory, here are a few tips and tricks that I always use to maximize my chances of finding the perfect planet. First of all, what I like doing is to always look into yellow systems that have a lot of planets, at the very least 4 of them to be more precise, because this greatly increases the chances for at least 1 lush biome to spawn, sometimes even 2 or 3 if you're lucky enough. From here on, you will have to decide if you want your lush planet to also feature water, so if you want those perfect Earth-like conditions, obviously you will want to search a planet that has both land as well as water. Fortunately enough, ever since the next update dropped last year, we are now able to see if certain solar systems feature water or not, and this is even indicated next to their names, so really easy to spot. If you see something like that, which is like the overwhelming majority of the systems in this game, you can go in and travel, and there's a huge chance for the lush biome to also feature water in it, and this places you really close to finding that Earth-like planet. If on the other hand you're somewhat like me and prefer having a fully covered jungle planet, then this is where it becomes a little bit interesting, and here is where you will want to hunt for actual moons. Yes, I'm not even kidding. Moons can definitely spawn as lush biomes, and in fact I have never encountered a single moon that featured water on it. For some reason that doesn't happen, but this means that if you do manage to find one that is lush, this also means that it's going to be fully covered in vegetation, and generally speaking I have found the terrain on moons as well as the scenery to be much better compared to planets. First of all, because the terrain on moons is rather straight, so not as many wild variations in terrain, and on the other hand, because you will also have that huge main planet in the background for some really nice sceneries. So again, the same logic in yellow systems with many planets, but this time around pay close attention to planets that hold moons. You can see that being indicated from the system view itself, and if you find something like this and if you see a moon, you can go in and there's big chances again for it to be a lush moon. Whenever you find any of these two types of systems, go in and travel into them, and here is where the next part of the guide, or the next part that I like doing, comes into play. Since you'll want to make hunting for these types of worlds as short as possible, there's a couple of tools over here that you can make great use of in order to make that time as short as possible. First of all, take a close look at the Discoveries tab. This will most often than not indicate you exactly what types of planets there are in this system, and even though you might not have discovered any of the planets in the new system, it's really easy to notice if any of them in the Discoveries tab is actually lush or not, so that you don't have to waste any more time in that system if you don't have to. Generally speaking, it's really easy to spot lush worlds as they are pretty distinct and they are generally more bright, but if there's none or if there's more of them, you will know by just checking the Discoveries step. And on top of that, it also helps you greatly since some of the time some planets might be behind others, so you don't actually have to travel with your ship from one angle to another to check what is in that system. You can simply check the Discoveries tab. But sometimes the Discoveries tab has some strange coloring issues, so even though you might see a lush planet in that system, those colors might be different in the Discoveries tab compared to how it is in the real view. So what I can do from this point on, and what I like doing personally, is to use the camera mode to scout ahead and then readjust the sun size so that you can perfectly see all of those planets and what features they might have. From the distance, and if they're greatly lined up, you can see exactly what type of planet they are, and if there's a large planet over there, you will definitely notice it because these are really easy to spot. As long as there's light shining on them, you cannot miss them. If there's none of them, you can simply move on to the next and not waste any more time unless you have to. So now that you did all of this, let's say you found a few systems, maybe you found a few lush planets or lush moons, and this is the time when you will want to jump onto them. Go in, land, and here are some of the criteria you will want to look for if you want to have that perfect planet. First of all, it goes without saying that the weather is probably the most important of them all. If the weather isn't in the white, I generally just avoid the planet entirely, even though everything else might look better. And that is because I just don't like having storms on an otherwise perfect lush paradise planet. Even more so if the text next to the weather is in red, such as for example super boiling storms. That is even a bigger reason to avoid it entirely, because you will not be able to fully take in all of that scenery since it's all going to be covered by the storm itself. If it's in the white, it's not going to be that common, and in any case not as severe as the red ones, so definitely pay close attention to that, though I would definitely recommend you to spend a little bit more time and look into something like calm weathers. So this is very important. If you find like calm breezes or anything along those lines, that is pretty much close to a perfect planet, at least in terms of the weather. From this point on, check out everything else. This includes the vegetation, including the colors, the way the grass is made out, what types of trees and plants spawn into that location, but most important of all, what types of creatures can you find over there. If you prefer something else with more advanced creatures, such as bipedal ones, or maybe even a dinosaur-filled planet, then maybe you should start looking into that as well. Again, you don't always have to settle down for that one planet if you don't like something about it, and this is especially true with me. I definitely prefer planets to be as close to perfection as possible. Last but not least, also pay close attention to the Sentinel Activity. Typically speaking, if the Sentinel Activity is something that is going to trouble you, you're going to be able to see that from space when scanning the planet. So if there's a high Sentinel Activity, if there's frenzied sentinels, you're going to be able to see that underneath all of the text when scanning the actual planet. But most of the time you're not going to see any indication at all, meaning that the Sentinel Activity is going to be low or average at best, which is pretty much the ideal. Now, to give you a general idea of how much time you actually need in order to hunt for these, I generally hunt about 1 hour per day, which brings me at about 10 or so systems, out of which about 1-2 planets are really close to perfection. So in this case I found a number of planets in about 15 minutes that came really close to what I liked. In this case I found a lot of them which had really nice perfect Earth-like conditions, including one that featured water. I also found a lush moon that was pretty close to what I liked, but of course this was just an hour of play, and the more you hunt the better chances you have. Now, on a closing note, I do want to go over another method that guarantees you even better chances at finding perfect lush worlds with a lot better conditions compared to the Euclid galaxy. So there's a different galaxy called Azentem. This is called the Green Galaxy because it's known for the fact that it has by far the highest chances to spawn lush worlds. In fact, by far the most common worlds over there are the lush paradise planets and moons as well. On top of this, it's also known for the fact that it has by far the best and the most calm weather conditions. This is, as I was saying, Azentem. It's the 10th galaxy in the row, so you can reach it, but you will need to do quite a bit of traveling. Alternatively, you can also follow the main storyline, and eventually you are given the possibility of going straight into this galaxy. It's just a matter of preference. If you're still in Euclid, you can go in and do that hunt manually, or if you're in Azentem, you can just go in and straight out find lush worlds left and right. But again, this has been everything there is to it. Tell me down below if you found the perfect lush world. But in the meantime, if you enjoyed this video, a thumbs up on it would be super appreciated. Also, don't forget to subscribe and activate that notification bell, and I will see you guys in a bit.